Welcome everybody, this is SharePoint Dev Weekly and we have a special edition today because we're all in the same room, which is pretty awesome. So I had a pretty interesting travel in there. We're in MVP Summit, first of all, MVP Summit 2019. This is Monday. The guys have seen today Jeff Pieper and a few others. Who was the
NDA?
I arrived like 20 minutes ago. I went to pick up a coffee and that's it. And
you were on the way for how many hours?
38 hours.
And that is not typically how long it takes from your house to get here. Right? I don't know. Touristic route?
Yeah, that's commute. My commutes are pretty long. So, but yeah, so we had a 2 times changing a plane in Heathrow, and we had night over in Heathrow as well. So it's pretty brutal.
All right, because in England you have to take a plane that would drive on the right side of the district, right?
Yeah, then you change. You might go that way and then go back the other way. We've got the wrong plane again.
Oh, not again.
That's all related on Brexit, right?
Yes.
So
that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Practicing already.
Yes.
Yeah. To blame it on Brexit. That's why it took so long.
But yeah, so these things do happen, so it's fine. So, but now I'm here, so all good.
Yes.
We can actually talk about what did you see today from a feeling perspective, if nothing else.
Right.
But before we go there, let's explain this guy.
Yes.
Yes.
So who are you? What do you do? What's your experience with SharePoint?
With SharePoint?
Well, yes. That is SharePoint.
Yeah,
do you say that?
Weekly.
I thought it was Office 365 now.
No.
We didn't talk about SharePoint anymore.
No. But that's a fair discussion.
That's right. So yeah, Liam Cleary. Most people know me. I'm Hello, it's Liam on Twitter, on everything else. Work with Waldek on bits and pieces. MVP for a long, long time. I remember my first MVP summit where there was about 35 of us.
Wow.
And we all just sat.
Long way back.
And we all just sat in a room with the flip over paper charts, and the product managers came in, and we just drew together, and we ate pizza, and we drank lots of soda.
How old are you?
I'm like 100 years old. Well, people keep asking me because I have a 20-year-old daughter, so go figure. So I must be 100.
That doesn't really say anything, right?
No, but it means I'm a lot older than people think I am.
Yeah, well.
No, this is a family show. So
family show. Yeah, we won't go there. And I've been working with SharePoint since before 2001.
Before 2001.
Yeah, so early versions of 2001. That's where I started. Wow. I've been around a while.
So from day one, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
You've been more on the IT Pro and the end user or security.
Yeah. So originally mostly infrastructure, so IT Pro side. I also have done dev. So I kind of flip between the two.
Wow.
I know, believe it or not, I can actually write code. I actually wrote SharePoint Framework code this past week using the new version of SharePoint Framework.
The 1.8?
Yep.
Already? Wow.
Already.
Nice.
Yeah, I just updated everything to 1.8 and that's what I wrote.
Nice, very good.
But yeah, so I do both. Predominantly IT Pro, security, do lots of sessions on security and things like that. But yeah, I do a mix really.
Actually, on that, if you do a small detour, just kind of from a discussion perspective also, we mentioned the fact that it's Office 365 or Microsoft 365 nowadays, and then you're more in a kind of an IT Pro kind of guy in the past.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, what is if you are an existing IT Pro guy in on-prem, what would be the way of thinking the future?
Oh, okay.
Being super afraid, extending your knowledge, or how did you end up on doing what you're doing?
It was just extending knowledge more than anything else. I mean, the fundamental tasks that you would do as an IT Pro still stand.
Yeah.
Like you're not having to patch servers now.
Yep.
That's realistically what you're not having to do,
awesome,
which is amazing. Like you don't have to patch servers anymore. I don't have to.
All of those weekends.
That's right. All the hours and hours and hours of just watching something go chick, 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 and then fail.
Yeah.
So we don't have to do that anymore. But the configuration, the management, the security, it still all stands.
Yep.
And actually, I've had lots of conversations. I actually did a presentation a while back about the future of an IT Pro. And what that turns into, and it's really like nothing necessarily changes.
Yep.
You're just moving what you would do to more of an on-demand service management type thing. So you're still configuring, you're still securing, you're still controlling the same things you would do, except you now get to utilize a bunch of services versus something you have in the office.
Yep.
And so like for me, I still do the same work.
Yep.
I just do it in the cloud now instead. So nothing has really changed. I mean, obviously, when we do dev, it's different. mean, obviously that's different, but from an IT pro perspective, it's still the same. And no one really likes building servers. No one really likes doing it. They might say they do, but they really don't. It's just a necessity.
That's fair point.
Yeah.
Fair point. I can concur that.
Yeah, that's right.
Because to be fair, especially in ID Pro and a server building, just note on that one, it's always the same setup. And
That's right.
When you get the ultimate setup, which is the de facto setup for you and 99% of the customer, you're just repeating the same thing.
Yep, that's right. I mean, I've lost track how many times I've built SharePoint 2016 environments, 2019 environments. I just built some recently. It's this. I can do them
0 times.
I can do that. Yeah, stop showing off. But I do these all the time, and it's just so easy. Just bang. I'm going to build. How many servers have we got? Done. Bang, and I build them.
And you need to do that if you want to do dev testing as well in the on-premises. I know that.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
But
I have never done before.
As an example, the BMP stuff. The BMP PowerShell, BMP Season 4.
One server farm, like what I read about.
Well, that's
that. But if you truly want to test it, like to test something that matches, like every server type.
Just write your code correctly, and then it will work.
If only that was the case. If only that was the case, that everyone wrote their code perfectly. But they don't. I mean,
and that is why we have a job.
Yeah, that's right. So it's like you write code. I find the code that's bad that you wrote, and then we'll fix it. Well, I mean, maybe you do. I don't know. But you hide it.
Anyway. What's happening here?
Lots of translation.
Yeah, that's right. And what I meant was his code was good.
Yeah.
Not bad.
That's what you get, right? When you start talking about servers and farms.
Yeah, exactly. Now I get slightly confused there.
But it is a difference. I mean, it is a difference. I mean, you build farms to test. I mean, I build farms because I'm building training courses.
Yeah.
And so I need to be able to do that. If I'm building training courses for 365, I'll use cloud services. I'll use demo.
You'll build your own cloud.
I'll build my own Office 365 stack in my basement, and that's where
he's not doing
that. I'm not doing that. No, I try not to do that now. But I mean, I still build it because I want to know how server works. I still want to fundamentally know how Exchange works or Active Directory on premises, because most of the clients that I will speak to are not all in.
And there's
Office 365.
And obviously, if you have time and if you have that knowledge, there's no harm having that knowledge, even though you could be a developer. Now, to be fair, nowadays as a SharePoint developer, you do not have to worry about that.
No, that's right.
Because you can concentrate only on pure code and do stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
So, just to be clear that nobody's freaking out on how is they what.
No, everybody has to have a server.
No.
Yeah.
So. Related on code, last week we released something really cool, and CLI immediately adapted that, which was really cool.
Yeah, so last week you released, the Microsoft team, released the version 1.8 of the SharePoint Framework, and really shortly after that, we released in the Office 365 CLI support for upgrading SharePoint Framework projects to version 1.8.
Yeah.
So basically to make the transition from any version that you might have in the past to 1.8 as easy as you can, right? Because like typically what we see is that every single time when there's an update, there are the obvious things that change the dependencies, but there are also some other things that change as well. Things like new files within project, structure, TypeScript rules, and other things. So instead of you having to manually go through all the steps, discovering what I have versus what has changed, you can just run CLI and that will give you comprehensive report. Like these are the things that change. So we don't do the change for you just yet. We might do that at some point. Eventually, we might not. But currently, we give you a report that you can just use, go through it, and even copy paste the code. Like run this, run that, update this, and you're done.
Yeah.
So basically, to simplify the upgrade as much as we can, allowing you to focus on the things that matter, as opposed to just bump the version of project.
And now let's reinforce that and reiterate that one slightly. So the CLI is a really easily installable tool for any operating system, any development environment.
Yes, so it's a cross-platform, cross-OS, command line interface, community-driven, built in the open, managed in the open, by community, for community.
Yeah.
It's an NPM-based tool, so if the only thing you need as a runtime is Node, with for SPFX development you already have.
Yeah, that's true.
And
then you go to the
yes.
project folder and you say run CLI.
Yes, so you run like SPFX project upgrade to version or not if you want to have the latest one.
Yeah.
And then you will get a report. Within seconds, you will get a report saying, like, you are here, you want to upgrade your project from version to 1 to 2. This is the list of the things you have to change.
Yeah.
Done.
Because this came up with some of the feedback in the community related to 1.8 is that we're releasing so many versions and
Yes.
it's hard to keep up on how do we do the stuff. But CLI is really the tool to do that.
Yeah, so we aim, so that's our goal, like to simplify the upgrade, allowing you to, as I said already, to spend your time on the things that matter and not to keep track of deltas between 1.8 and 1.7.1 and 1.7 and so forth and so on. What about you? Like you spend your last days traveling here, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yes.
Anything else that you have done on top of that?
Well, so last week obviously SPFX 1.8 testing and making sure that that's working properly. And we need to improve that documentation quite a lot.
So slightly related to that, if I can put you a little bit on the spot, what is your favorite feature in 1.8?
Yeah, the favorite feature in 1.8 absolutely is Microsoft Teams GA. Microsoft Teams tabs using SPFX. So, which is a massive deal because we, as a Microsoft, we push Microsoft Teams quite heavily currently, made by whatever leadership decisions, always trying those things, and it's an awesome tool. I've been using Teams already today for communicating.
Yes, like I am on the way. I am in the car on the way. Yes.
So I'm arriving in a minute. Let's go to. But yeah, so that's really great to have the SPFX as the de facto development model for the tabs, rather than making that life more difficult. Like you said, you were able to do SPFX development.
Yeah.
No offense.
Like that.
I say nothing. I will say nothing.
Yeah,
IT pros can dev too.
Yes.
Sometimes.
And
on that bombshell.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well.
And SharePoint Framework is actually fairly straightforward to dev.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it is. I mean,
if you can do that.
If I can do that. I C# dev. I used to teach MCSD courses, so I know how to dev. But SharePoint Framework is actually much easier. The only criticism I suppose I would have for SharePoint Framework really comes down to documentation.
Constructive piece of feedback.
Yeah. I'm going to say not okay. Constructive feedback. We can go with that. It's really just some of the, like I was talking to you the other day. So I'm building something in SharePoint Framework. I wanted to use like the dialogue component. Yep. But there seems to be a lack of like everything that I wanted it to do.
Scenario based.
Yeah, it's more scenario based. It's like I want to be able to pass certain properties to it, and it doesn't exist. And the only way of doing that is you need to extend to do your own, which is a bit more complicated, which you can do. But if you're not into that idea, especially because obviously I'm using React, and so if you're not really a super React dev, like that's a whole new thing to try and understand. Yeah, like an IT pro. I mean, I can take that. I can take that. So what do? I change it and I use Sweet Alert 2 instead, which does exactly what I want. But like that's my only constructive feedback would be that, like that.
But I think we'll get there one step at a time. Like I said, the documentation isn't, I'm not super happy with 1.8 documentation yet. We'll get it improved all the time. And then we need to come up with more scenario-based guidance and updated kind of a solution guidance as well.
But the one thing that I love about the place where we're at now is the fact that docs are open source. Anybody and everybody can contribute to not to be a part of the issue, but just, help. Like if you find an issue and you spend your time solve that, write about it, help us, all of us, get better docs so that the next person will not have to go through exactly the same hoops.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, the scenario ones that are there right now are good, but they're very specific scenarios that are, like for example, when I took the dialogue one, it's great, like it's well written out, but it's showing me a color picker. Like, why do I want to see a color picker? Fair point. So it's like if I want to do a dialogue, I want to see different types of dialogues that I can launch. So it's that kind of stuff. But then
what's wrong with color pickers?
I mean, color pickers is cool. It's a cool thing to have on it, but it's like something simple. So
that's true.
So when I first built it, so I'll give you a real world. I built this example, and when the dialogue came up, it just full screens with.
Yeah.
And because I can't pass a width to that object.
Right.
And so it's like, well, what do I do now? So now I'm gonna hack it using CSS, which is one way of doing it, or I'm gonna do extensions. So, but then people like me that maybe are not so deep into SharePoint Framework development, like that becomes like almost a barrier.
And I guess also from that point of view, maybe it's not even about being an expert, but just not like if you haven't worked with that particular API for the last weeks. Like you have a problem to solve and you want to do it now. You don't want to become an expert in API. So you have an issue you want to solve and you go to the docs, it isn't there. So then you're trying to say, okay, what is the other easiest way that I can find to solve my issue? And then you'll find something else like the best dialog or whatever.
Yeah, so I use Sweet Alert too. Same thing. Because it has a React interface.
Exactly.
Which was nice. Like it was just
and it
has more examples. I'm like, oh, I know what to do.
But yes, it's also on that note, is that ability to be able to exactly do that. Like, just find the thing that addresses your needs, whether it's a part of the framework or not.
But that's the whole point, because it's an industry standard model. And we do still understand that people who are moving into the SPFX has burden and feels it's a learning curve. But the whole advantages of doing that jump is that then you're able to take advantage of all of the other goodies around the JavaScript frameworks and everything else.
I mean, that was really nice to be able to just go, well, I don't know how to use that. It doesn't do what I want to do.
So I need dialog in React.
Yeah, and I need something in React, and it's an NPM package. I can put it straight in, and then within 20 minutes, I had it working exactly as I wanted to.
On Windows, right? Those on Windows 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was a Windows 20. I was using a Mac. So I actually did it on a Mac this time.
Hey, come on.
And most importantly is that when I created it and tested it, this was specifically into 365 GCC.
Right.
So it's not even regulated, it's in the government cloud. And of course, I wasn't sure how it was going to work with 1.8. I assumed that the service would be consistent, and it just worked.
There you go.
So I was quite happy with that.
Perfect.
So the 1.8, and just to, by the way, clarify for anybody who's watching the video, we're not going to do community articles this time because we have this special setup. So we'll cover the articles next week when we're again back at home on the other side of the world.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Because otherwise it might take you like another 5 days.
That might.
Like you'll have a horse and then
as long as there's no volcanoes erupting again, like years ago, those were the horrible things.
Right.
Anyway, so the other big thing what we released last week, really massive. Last week was really insanely busy. And plus the fact that this week is also MAP Summit didn't help at all. But a lot of this stuff was kind of delayed, and we wanted to get it out and earlier, but then it was delayed on the week before MAP Summit, was the provisioning service. So massive deal for us, actually. It's kind of we started building, or actually, even the vision around the remote provisioning comes from 2012. So it's kind of a way ahead of the historical things. And then now it's 2019, and we actually have a service where you can go and do selection of a template and say, install that to my tenant. That's brilliant.
So if you can share a bit, and I'm not sure to what detail you already have, but what is the vision? Like, where do you want to go eventually with that?
So briefly explain what it is first. I didn't really explain that in a good way, but the SharePoint lookbook sites, everybody knows probably what is SharePoint lookbook, and if you don't, have a look on the video notes.
Have a look in the book, and then you will know.
That's right.
But anyway, it's basically a UI designs which our SharePoint design team has done. We have a pretty big actual design teams nowadays, which is responsible of the experiences and was responsible of creating this mascot as an example.
Thank you.
Yes, awesome mascot. But they basically drew designs how the modern SharePoint portals could be done, and that was a lookbook which was released in Ignite 2018. And everybody was super excited. You can go and have a see how the pages are then being built. But those are pictures. So then we started thinking on, okay, how do we make those to be more easily clickable and available?
And also available for everybody else.
So rather than being in our own tenants and it's shown in our demos, but not available for everybody else. And so we wanted to do that. The second kind of objective, what we wanted to do is the SharePoint Starter Kit has existed since SPC last year, but still we were getting a lot of feedback on, hey, this is hard to download from GitHub, and then you need to run PowerShell. I don't know if I can install that. I don't know what it means. And so we wanted to make that installation as easy as possible. So we released a website where you can go, as long as you're a tenant administrator right now, sign in from a catalog site what you want to actually apply, a tenant template, and that will then create
everything yes.
and content, sample content, multiple site collections, site designs, themes, whatever is in the template. So,
and the reason for that is so the main purpose of that is to let everybody experience the UX in their own tenant.
Correct.
So not to go with that in production, like don't build your own intranet on that.
Well, there's kind of that's absolutely true for the lookbook sites.
Yes.
So that's because they have example content as well.
Yeah.
Now there is the other side of the kind of a partially vision, partially already available, which is the solution side. So we're talking about samples and solutions already on the service. On the solution side, we have a custom learning portal.
Right.
And the custom learning portal is something which contains a custom web part, and it's a site collection which you can install to your tenant, which you can use then to find information around how SharePoint works, how to use modern.
Perfect.
It integrates to the knowledge base of Microsoft using a clever web part and all of that stuff. So, and that's
really
the
cool.
first step of actually providing reusable site collection solutions, whatever you want to call them.
Applications.
Yes, and don't call the old name for those things.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. But basically, because SharePoint solution quite often is a actual site collection, which has then content and associations and web parts which are connected between each other. So that kind of things can be then provisioned using the provisioning service as well.
Packaged and delivered to your tenant.
Yes. And what's also really cool, all of this stuff and all of these templates are available also as an open source. So we have provided those templates to be available for others to kind of example what you can build.
Yeah, so in theory, you could pull them down, extend them, and then deploy them yourself, right? So you wouldn't be able to upload them to the provisioning service now.
Correct.
But if you would use PowerShell, you would be able to deploy that extended template by yourself.
Yeah.
So being an IT pro, that's a great value prop. Right? Because you have already a place to start. You can just add, extend, customize to your needs, and then just run it.
Yeah, which I've worked on a whole bunch of projects where the whole idea is we want to provide a mechanism where they can select components that would be in some kind of site, where it's going to go, what it's going to look like, the pages that need to be there. And so right now, like the last one I worked on, I used PnP PowerShell to do most of that. So, but just straight PowerShell. So there's nothing else you have to write. And it ends up being thousands of lines of PowerShell to do the same thing. So at least if that reduces that footprint and so now I have the engine and now I have this, then that's like a match made in heaven. That's perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and also the fact that your site is written in a form of a template. So the end result is opposite to the steps you have to take to arrive there. That is so much easier, at least to me, to manage, to even see what is there. Right? Because you can see, let's say in XML form, the answer, like, I want to have this. And whether you arrive from the like this or that way, what is the order of things, dependencies, do you have fields or lookups first, or like all of that is abstracted away and just get a clear template, I want to have this. And when you run this one commandlet, you will have this, period.
Exactly.
But then if you flip it the other way, if I'm a business user, an end user, like I'm the one that's going to design the site as I want it to look like. So how does that work the other way around? Well, because I may have gone to the SharePoint site already, built what I want as a template, and then I want to use that again. So are we able to bring that back? Is that something on the roadmap?
That's not directly on the provisioning service itself. So the provisioning service, and good discussion point actually. So the provisioning service is designed for the Microsoft control. So we want to take an ownership of that one. We will release the source code out of it. So if you're a partner on ISV and you want to build something similar for your customers, you can absolutely do that. But then if you need to, if you're an end user kind of, or your end user, your customer has created a site and they say, I want to create hundreds of these kind of sites, you can actually do that already today using PnP PowerShell or code using the PnP tenant templates. You're able to extract and then apply that to the multiple sites. So it's not, how would I put it? The extraction isn't 100% of the configuration, but it's pretty close and based on actually community contributions.
Cool.
But and if you think about the provisioning service in the long run, I think the vision of that one is that, well, obviously we keep on polishing that. We have some things like right now the SharePoint starter kit, as an example, requires a term set administrative permissions, and we are seeing people, and it's clearly stated on the templates, but
but it's still
things, pre-requirements. I'm not going to read.
No one reads those anyway.
Or you assume that they are there, right? And then maybe you skip.
Yes. So sure. But it's one of those that we kind of make those exceptions more understandable.
Yeah, and also maybe something like pre-flight or pre-check.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Pre-checking of is it actually available, is it working? Also, there will be more functionalities like Teams creation. So the PMP tenant templates will support Teams definitions pretty soon. So we're able to define that I'll have these channels and these tabs and these configurations pointing to those SharePoint pages.
And I guess that part will be based on the API that was recently released as a part of the Microsoft Graph, right? Because that allows us to create pre-configured teams.
Correct. And all of those APIs, Microsoft Teams tabs APIs, are in Microsoft Graph because they didn't have an existing API. Like SharePoint has.
They don't have the legacy, the baggage. From the past,
So, but anyway, so we're going to take advantage of those APIs, and then that moves, and one step at a time as we get more and more Office 365 services exposed through the Microsoft Graph, we can actually implement additional capabilities on the tenant template, which means then additional capabilities in the provisioning service, and then everybody can.
And then you will get the workload probably like Power BI,
Power Apps, Flows, or whenever the APIs are actually functioning properly. So one step at a time, obviously, whenever they are. So,
cool.
So, but super excited on getting that one out as well.
Awesome.
Please give us feedback. So super important. But I think that's it. We've been chatting here. On the same room, which is so weird. For a long time. But I think that's it for this one. So thank you, Liam.
Thank you.
Us. So
you dragged me in, so it's fine.
Exactly.
But thank you.
Good chat. And it's good to have the IT Pro governance and that kind of a discussion always these things, because especially with SharePoint, and I would say in general Office 365, it's important to understand the surroundings as well.
Yeah, because you guys don't get to do anything if I lock you out.
That is true. Yes, you can lock us out.
So as an IT Pro, I could just be like, that stuff you want me to install? That's not going to happen. I mean, realistically,
that is true.
We could just say, well, we need to put that in the app catalog.
Yeah, but then again, you would get probably the order from above, like, I want this to work. Like, we need this. The business needs that, and then
so weirdly, that's what you would think.
Also, that is what I'm hearing from many companies.
I know. It's actually quite strange because it goes one of two ways. So you tend to work with the business unit and they speak to IT. So in large organizations, you may have multiple levels of IT. So you have global IT, and then, for example, finance may have their own IT. But then the finance IT get given permission to kind of do specific things in a tenant. And so I come in and I build something. Let's say I build a SharePoint Framework component, and I say that needs to be installed, and they'll say that needs to be installed. And then the IT for that finance will just install it. Like there won't be a question. It'll just be done. But then on the other side, there's
global IT is
global IT is like, what did you do? There's something went in the tenant. It's like, wasn't me. But then on the other side, there's other places where you'll never get it in the tenant. Like it's not going to happen. What does it do?
And tell me why review specs.
That's right. And ideally, it should be that last one. It should be.
Well,
I want to check what it does.
There should be a middle ground.
The
whole checking should be easier.
Correct.
It should be available to everybody within minutes and not within days. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't require like die-hard expertise, like breaking open packages, reading code.
Correct.
Like that, there should be a way to make it more available to everybody.
Yes.
And then there's always the additional dimension, especially with, for example, the development stuff, customizations, which is the Microsoft Graph, permissions, and the Azure AD requirements and all of that stuff.
And I just went through this with a client right now. We're using Invitation API for Azure AD, creating contacts in CRM, and then creating them in Azure AD. And multiple times, I have to go back to their IT and say, I need you to give me these permissions on the app registration because I can't do this and I can't do this, and then we have to justify, which is good.
And that is true. And then you need to have the Azure AD application and getting that form filled out.
That's right. That's right.
That stuff, which is the reason why I'm always bringing this up, which is one of the key points why we offer the hosting and the administrative permissions and craft approvals and all this stuff through SharePoint nowadays. Because then you do, it's usually, correct me if I'm wrong, I've been away from the customer for a
while. Everyone's your customer. Everyone's your customer.
But it's especially with larger customers, what it used to be in the past is that it's a different group of people coordinating Azure AD and Azure hosting and Office 365. So therefore, those people do not communicate.
Yeah, those security people don't talk to it. Exactly. The answer is no every time.
No, well, that's true.
That's true. No, you can't do that. No, but we need to. No. So then you have a battle.
Yeah.
But yes.
You know, a deadlock situation.
Yes, that's right.
But anyway, so I think that's it for this one. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
MVP Summit, day one. We didn't talk about the feelings from. Let's actually do that.
Oh yeah. So from my perspective, I think that I've attended.
It's gonna take hours and hours.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
So I've attended, I think, so in the past 10 years that I've been in NFP, I think I've attended all of them so far. One thing I noticed is that the atmosphere is more open, more relaxed. There's less tension, more openness, more trust.
Yeah.
So as such, it's like it seems like everybody is more at ease.
Yeah.
And this has such a big impact on the way feedback is being received from, because MVP is a vocal community.
Yep.
Not shying away from sharing their opinions, and that might sometimes, like, it might be perceived as offensive at times, but like in the end, people have the best intention.
Yep.
And I think
they want to make sure
they want to help. They want to help. Yes,
exactly.
like everybody wants to advance the products, but sometimes it's like being on the outside, not being a part of the product group, makes it hard to put our opinions in perspective. Because like we do not see what you guys see, right? So aside, we give our opinion, and it's great to see that the atmosphere that's here supports that discussion, that open discussion about things. So I really like I think that so far, this is the best summit so far, like I said.
Yeah. After 8 hours, right?
Yeah, that's right. We'll see what happens at the end of the week.
Oh yeah.
But I think that's kudos to Microsoft too. That, I mean, having been to so many of these and seen where it's been really great and embraced, and it's been a team, and then a couple of years in between where I kind of call them the teenage years, where it really didn't work so well, like the PMs didn't really want to know, and the MVPs were pretty vocal and not in a pleasant way.
Yeah.
And like now it's kind of like, well, hold on. Kudos to Microsoft. You're releasing stuff.
Yeah.
You may not be where you want to be completely, but stuff is being released.
But we're being open.
You're being open about it and coming back and saying, you know what, we haven't done this.
Yeah.
We're working on it, but this is functionally the reason why we haven't done it. And I mean, even some of the sessions today, it's like, we would love to have done this, but the reason we didn't do it is because the performance was so bad that we're not going to put that on you. And you have to admire that. But it's like in the past it would have been ship, and now it's like, no, let's get this right.
I guess that in the past the reason for that was that things would be shipped like once in 3 years, and there was a deadline. Like you have to meet the day. Whereas nowadays, like you ship every week. Like if it's not this week, well, then it will be the next week.
Yes.
No, that's right. And I think people are more relaxed because they're like, well, that feature's not there right now. We know it's coming, and we know that you guys will ship it when it's ready.
So
and you've proven that. You've proven when it's ready, it will be there.
And it is not the matter of if, just when.
Yes. That's right. That's right. Because I think in the past we've had years where it's like, we're going to give you, we're going to have ponies and rainbows and all kinds of weird stuff.
In 3 years.
In 3 years' time. And you're like, okay, and then 3 years' time turns up and you're like,
where is the pony?
That looks nothing like it. It's like
a donkey, right?
Yeah, that's right. You get me a donkey that walks backwards. A donkey that walks backwards. That's a good, But like now it's released, it's up to date, and there's roadmaps published. And so, like you said, the MVP community as a whole is a lot more relaxed. A lot more relaxed, and so it floats well with the PMs because they're like, I'm not going to go in there and get shouted at. It's like, okay, there's going to be some forceful feedback, but it's structured feedback now.
And I've always said that people need to be able to give also negative feedback. Constructive negative feedback, even though it wouldn't be necessarily super constructive every now and then. There is a reasons why people feel like that. So it is feedback which you can take, and then you can adjust your behavior.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know that, how would you improve?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said earlier, the last time you had a customer has been however long.
Yep.
Like, I'm in the trenches, I'm with clients on a day-to-day basis, you're talking to them, you're seeing weird behaviors or things not working, the client's like, I need to do this.
Yep.
You're like, it doesn't do that.
Yep.
And so it's like, oh, actually, that would be really good.
That's true.
So you give the feedback, but you also need to be aware that you guys have priorities, things are important, and if it's a 0.01% usage of something, it's probably not going to be there like from day one.
Yes.
But it might make it
Eventually, yeah.
But it will get not because it's not useful. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate the metrics. That the key phrase from today has been that most of the PM groups are data and metrics driven.
Yeah.
Because that's what you are. Like, you look at the metrics now.
Yes.
You know, we used to I remember sitting with the PM groups and going, you guys have no idea. Like, you don't even know. Like, they're like, no one ever does that. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Every client I go to does it. But now you know. You already know this for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
So now it's like, we don't have to argue that anymore.
True.
It's like, these guys are doing this. Yeah,
True.
we see that too.
True. And it's actually the data-driven transformation has been really amazing in the inside of the organization as well. Well, I've been in the actual SharePoint engineering now for, I can't even count, 3 years. 3 years maybe.
It feels like 50.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, but it's one of those things where we learn step by step, and we've already gone pretty far. So we're thinking funnels and thinking channels, and then what if we put that one there and we do tests, which is really awesome. So we put something there, and then we make sure we're tracking. Is it making the intention, or is it driving the usage on a certain direction or not? Or should we put it in here? And that's partially then somebody might give us feedback on, no, but those are changes which you can't, those are causing then end user challenges as well, which is true. But then how else would we know?
Yeah.
So,
that's right.
And nowadays when we are releasing once a week, so we can actually do that. We can adjust things and do changes. So. Cool. But I think that's it for this one. So thank you, Liam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Again.
And we'll go to the normal article-based reviews and discussions starting next week.
Yes.
Absolutely. But thank you everybody for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this format as well. So thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.